Why the fuck is Susan Collins trending now?
Oh, no. Is she?
20 years are going to watch that and a Brian Murphy prestige.
Maybe he'll be dead. Who's gonna play Susan Collins in the movie?
I was so excited for this. I don't know what I thought it was gonna be like. I honestly, I said last week that I was like, I guess somewhere I imagined it being like sexier, like more tawdry.
Sure, but no, this is just a straight up horror story.
Nauseating.
And awful. Yeah.
I felt by the end of this movie, episode rather.
Yeah, it did feel long like a movie.
Will.
Kristen.
So I'm watching American Crime Story, Season 3, Impeachment.
Episode 3,
Episode 3.
Not to be believed.
You know,
I'm going to quote Taylor Swift here for a minute, which is that there is a special place in hell for women who don't support other women.
And we're not talking about Tina Fey and Amy Poehler.
Not even a little bit. This show is stressing me out.
I just
I lived through this. We both lived through this.
Yeah, but not
like this.
Not like
this.
Not like this. Not this. Get Jan.
This way.
In broad strokes, I was aware. I was aware that these people were victims. I knew little to nothing about Paula Jones other than, I think I said last week that she was but one of many clowns in this circus.
Well, I knew a lot of jokes about her and stuff, but I didn't know how much of this behind the scenes stuff. And I didn't know.
Which we are taking as gospel, so.
That's true. We don't know how much of this is actually true, but a lot of it feels true or feels like it at least has the basis of truth.
And if not to her, I'm
sure this happened to somebody in this whole saga.
He is I can't figure
the
out.
Husband?
Yeah. I keep wanting to say Taron Killam is overacting, but
it feels right. It feels sort of right.
He is awful.
Oh yeah.
She just
the issue is that he is taking this horrible traumatic thing that happened to her and making it about his feelings about what other people might think of him,
might think of
his
wife,
what strangers might think of him for having a wife who was alone in a room with the president. And it's like, ugh, if men just talked about their feelings. Do you know what I mean?
It makes me physically ill to think that in particular these two women, obviously more than them, but for instance, Monica and Paula paid such a heavy price.
Almost the ultimate
for
price.
The actions of all of the people around them.
Well, and specifically the leader of the free world's
But even so this was a relatively...
We got a little deep dive into Bill.
I'll say thoughtful. Yeah. I don't know if that I would go with flattering, but this was a thought. They are positioning this like he is a hopeless romantic. Like he does sort of
or like a sex addict.
Yeah, but I'm gullible, so maybe I'm just believing the words of Clive Owen. But
he's doing honestly great.
He's speaking, and I think it was a strong choice to start from, because remember we said it was a borderline caricature.
Yeah.
And that's coming down.
Way down.
And so I think that was a smart choice to start higher.
Yeah.
And then ground us in this character.
Absolutely.
Because the way they're depicting this, it's like he is aware of what he's doing and takes it seriously, I guess.
Well, I mean, he's definitely playing it as though he is in love with Monica and he just can't help himself. And so if only they could break up and just be friends, then maybe everything could be okay again.
Which again,
just keeping her on the hook, man. It's so rude.
Yeah, well, but it's like I can understand the perspective they are selling us as his perspective.
Sure.
Because he tells the story that it happened once before. And he couldn't go through with it because of Chelsea,
right?
Because of his wife and because of his daughter. And that's largely the story we've been given. You know, it's like he has been less of a political figure since his presidency,
sure.
But Hillary has been a major political figure. She's written 2 books. The subject of their relationship has come up.
Yeah.
Very complicated stuff that people like to pretend it's not. I don't know why. Like I've said several times, there are two literary characters by the name of Zeus and Hera.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very complex.
Well, also, it's just like nobody else is in their marriage but the two of them. Only the two of them know what kind of agreement they've come to. And so everybody speculating, it ends up kind of just being a little gross and mean because you're like, you don't know what else they've been through together. Like, he supported her a lot when she was like, you know, they met in school. And so like he was like supportive of her becoming a lawyer when like the men in the room were like hissing at her and saying, why are you taking a place from someone who could be here? They're going to get shipped off to Nam.
She kept her last name, like, because that was, I think we said this in our first episode, but that was a real reason why so many people, especially conservatives, disliked her is because she did not play the role of a politician's wife.
Boo.
And well, at the time that was kind of
no, I mean boo at that thought process.
Yeah, and at the time it was kind of groundbreaking. I mean, she was one of the earlier, you know, people on this front line. But you know, I've mentioned growing up in a moderately conservative household, I had impressions of who these people were and what they were like, and the impression being pitched in the late 90s was Slick Willy, was that he was sort of not goofy, but that he just like he thought he was better than all of it. So to see him this is what I was getting at earlier when I was like, he seems to be aware of the gravity of the situation.
Sure.
He's taking it very seriously. And he's like that scene where he was kind of telling off Monica after Linda Tripp wrote that terrible letter.
In which she said, I was a good girl and waited.
You and Rachel full body shuddered. Like watching this with women, I don't know if you have the pleasure of two men and two women sitting in a room watching this.
Oh man, it viscerally, it hurt my feelings because I just am like, because it also
you did it in tandem, the two of you. You were like,
it pulls something into focus about Linda Tripp, which is that she hates women, including herself. And it's just like,
well, she's old school.
Oh God,
she was the woman in the man's world.
Yeah.
And
so she's learned how to operate like a man, not how to operate like a woman, like using the femininity of which she has very little. I swear every week it gets more entertaining watching Sarah Paulson tromp around.
Just lurch.
Just lumbering around.
Will said she looked like one of the Goombas from Super Mario. And just the sheer irony of this busybody woman who thinks like she's talking about like PTA bullshit in her cubicle in the first episode. She's like, don't listen to my calls. Don't eavesdrop. And then the irony of this woman actually having the scoop.
But that's the thing about this episode, especially with Linda, is that Kathleen Willie hit the nail on the head where she was like, you love being in my business. This is the only thing you want because it makes you feel important because you know that you're nothing. Your life has nothing, no importance. You don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. You're just you're grasping at stuff to make yourself important. And it was just like, yup, that's it.
And this goes back to the whole, like, you know, the Monicas and the Paulas paying the biggest price, because it's like, I just cannot believe what a circus all of this was. The Drudge Report shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I've heard that term.
Yep.
I knew it skewed conservative, but I didn't know that he was Perez Hilton. Like.
Yeah. Essentially. Also, when I first
played Billy Eichner, which looks just like him.
Just like him. So when I first moved here, I got a job at a captioning company, and they used to tell me to check the Drudge Report for the news to get like keywords to give the captioners that they might have to like key into their machines. And I just remember being like, that doesn't make me very comfortable, but I didn't know why. I was like, that doesn't feel right.
But, and apparently, because there was a wink in this episode, but apparently he claims that he is not gay, but he was apparently a fixture in the gay scene
in DC,
and yeah, when he was young. So apparently has been linked to all kinds of men. So he's one of those.
Yeah.
As someone there, but by the grace of God, go I. Yeah. There can be a weird appeal to be like I said, I mean, I started the millennium. I started the 20th century off as like the gay Republican. It didn't last very long because I can think, but it just, we shouldn't, but we're going to.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
No, you fall into that like Gone Girl, like I'm a cool girl, I'm not like the others.
Yeah.
Like, and for a while you think that, I mean, I think that there's a slight virtue to not just completely falling in with the crowd.
No, 100%.
To actually thinking about what things are, you know, what people are saying, what they mean, what could happen.
Like, I think it's important a lot of the time to really sit down by yourself only and just think, does it harm me when X, Y, and Z happens? If it doesn't, just shut the fuck up. Just stop talking about it.
And the scene at Laura Ingram's house, it's so funny because this is a Ryan Murphy production, so this goes without saying.
Yeah.
But it was so funny, the queer energy radiating from that scene.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all of the conservatives, sort of like, but it comes off like the bitchiest of Game of Thrones palace intrigue.
Like they're all gonna have a key party later.
But it's like all of the Game of Thrones Lord Varys and Littlefinger, like that's just all
100%.
the Ann Coulter and her squad.
I tell you, I do long for the Betty Gilpin Ann Coulter, but like
I think Kobe's doing.
Kobe is doing it.
She looked just like her in that white sleeveless,
unreal. It's so good and such a mid-90s dress. Oh man.
So yeah, the Drudge Report of it all. I guess he did start in 95. I mean, we mentioned that this is playing out like a horror film. It's getting more
like a horror film.
Like with each episode.
He was like menacing that woman who just wanted a poster of a journalist. And he was like, let me tell you about the worst one.
There was a point in the middle where when he posts, he like scoops the like Kathleen story and publish
right out from under Michael
Wiley,
Isikoff.
Or Isikoff. Which one's Kathleen Wiley?
It's Willie, I guess. 2 L's,
From Harvey. And it just and just splatters it on the internet. And you had this moment where you were just like kind jokingly, but you were like, so it's his fault. And I was sort of like, it's like that number Leighton into the woods with it's my fault you was giving those, because you're watching, and especially watching this in year 2021, there's so many moments where I'm like, oh my God, is this where things changed?
So I was mostly talking about the news aspect of it. The like how the news operates now is his fault. But the whole thing is everybody's fault. Well, so many people's fault.
No, because Michael gets mad at him and it's like, what the fuck? And he's like, it's just gossip. And I'm like, yes, in this moment right now, yes, but you and people like you are fundamentally changing how the world works, and we're all gonna pay the price.
Plus, it's also
2 years into a global pandemic.
No, 100%. But it also does that court of public opinion thing where it's like, so now you have put a lien on this Kathleen Willie story that is yours alone. Everybody that he was like, I'm gonna pass 1 million people in the next year, 1 million people reading my website. That's so many people that get through, especially word of mouth, like, oh my God, have you seen the Drudge Report? No, I don't read that. Well, guess what they said about Kathleen Willie? And it's like, you know, that's so bad for her, I mean, even though we know the president did all this stuff, it's just like, it's bad for her, it's bad for him, it's bad for Monica, it's bad for the country, it's just, it's crazy. So damaging.
It's crazy watching all of this happen, and meanwhile, Monica's having an affair. Like, Monica is in, like, not a rom-com, but you know what I mean?
No, like a romantic drama. She's, like, in love with an unavailable man who just dumped her.
And it's just insane that she's going to become the linchpin of this entire thing. Like...
Yeah, I don't like it. Also, I guess we did not actually discuss it. So, Judith Light, Susan Carpenter Macmillan, is, like, in the pocket of Ann Coulter or something, because Ann Coulter and her cronies were having that conversation about how they have to make the Paula Jones settlement go away because Bill was like ready to settle.
So I don't know if they're in cahoots or it's just sort of great minds type. I think maybe they might have realized the thing. Like, you think that she's actually.
I think she might be in cahoots.
Okay.
I think she might have been in cahoots.
I think they both might have just saw the same angle.
Yeah, but like, how does that help Susan Carpenter Macmillan to like not get her client paid and stuff?
Well, she's not so much working for her client as she is trying to launch this brand of conservative feminism.
Okay.
That's at least how I've been.
Okay, fair enough.
She might be, but I'm just saying, I think that the
way those scenes were right next to each other made me feel like they were cahooting.
I feel like, well, and again, we might find that out, but I feel like they would have made that. We would have gotten
maybe
that. I don't know. Apparently in the 90s, Ann Coulter was like all powerful omnipresence, but
it's kind of hilarious.
She's pulling strings left and right, like. But
oh man,
and I loved how, because for a minute I was sort of like, what is this? Because they're meeting like it's like a secret club, and then literally in this episode she's like, it's like a secret club, and I was like, oh, okay, it's exactly what it looked like. And we also did get Bill Clinton's side of things, where he was like, I invested in some shit property in the Ozarks, and then my best friend killed himself, and now they're trying to do like.
Yeah, they're like trying to indict Hillary because there was a discrepancy on a 12-year-old like billing thing, and that's all
of which I'm like, yep, all those words. I remember every single one of those words.
That's the Whitewater scandal for sure.
I wanted to see, there's like footage, because I watched when CNN did like the 90s documentary.
Oh yeah.
And there's footage of her going to court over that, and it's like the most glamorous Hillary Clinton has ever looked. She's in like a fur coat, and it's when she has that like fluffy hair, and she's like, and I just want Edie Falco to do that. She's allegedly on the show.
Yeah. I wonder if she was as over it as she was about the Benghazi hearings when they wouldn't shut the fuck up about it.
That was supposed to be like, people like, can you believe that? And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of like, yeah,
I don't really.
What does it matter?
Yeah. So I think I want to talk about Linda Tripp a little bit more before we end this episode, only because she keeps on saying how much she doesn't want to be involved in any of this. She like calls,
but then she ends that spiel with, you don't know the half of it.
Yeah, but I mean, even
she's talking like she has the Holy Grail or like the Ark of the Covenant.
Even from before that, she's telling Kathleen, like, how come you told, Michael Isikoff to come and see me? Like, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be involved in this. And also, that's not how I remember it. I remember you being happy. And it's just like, no, that was the face of a woman who had just been assaulted in the Oval Office.
I was going to say, I was like, is that how it went down?
Kathleen Willey acted it like she had been assaulted in the Oval Office. Elizabeth Reeser acted it like she had been assaulted. And I just like watching Linda the whole time. She's rewriting it in her head so that it can make her look better.
Her narrative.
It'll suit her narrative about how, she got bumped out of the office because the president, or Kathleen made out with the president to keep her job. She's always flirting with him in the hallways. And it's like, no, they were personal friends. That's a whole different scenario. He misread stuff. He misread her general friendliness and tried to kiss her in the Oval Office. I don't know. She keeps doing that. She also gets this assignment from a hilariously placed Jim Rash, who we think is new in this episode. I had not noticed him before. That she has to book a tour for General or Major Dad, who I used to watch that show all the time when I was very small and couldn't pick the channel by myself. And she's like, it's a waste of her time and her resources and blah, 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 whatever. And then she finally gets like into it, and then it gets canceled. And she has like dressed up like a flight attendant to like be there and do this. It's ridiculous. But the whole time she is just like rampaging through the Pentagon. Like, this printer's not working. The yellows aren't good. I have to like blah, 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 this guy. And it's like
putting out fires.
It's so... the behavior of her, the elevation of her own importance in her own mind, because she's nobody and everybody else in that office knows they're nobody. Her cube mate knows she's nobody. She's like, I barely am a cog in the US government. If I weren't here, everything would be fine. And Linda is like, this would all come crumbling down if I didn't arrange this tour for Major Dad. It's unbelievable.
To the point where I just am starting to take her word. I'm like, well, I mean,
she says it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so much. It's so much. And it's so gross. The way that she's also like instigating all this secrecy where she's like, if you call me back, your name is Harvey. And it's like, why? Again, you're nobody. It's ridiculous. And then all of the secrecy at the end of the day, she gets quoted by name in Newsweek. So it's like, why are you trying to be secretive about this? You wanted your name in print the entire time.
Well, it's like the Monica stuff, how she's constantly talking Monica. Like Monica has tried to bail in this relationship like 4 times on this affair, and she keeps stalking her back into it.
I don't. Yeah.
And then Tony Blair called and he hugged me. That's another going back to the whole the irony of Linda Tripp being the woman who actually does have the scoop.
Yeah.
It is just so funny how in Monica's mind she is just having an affair.
Yeah.
Like she says the words, but it's like to just be able to casually be like, and then my boyfriend kicked me out to talk to the Prime Minister of the UK. Yeah. Like it's just
that was hilarious because she is just explaining it to Linda and she's like, yeah, well, and then he hugged me and then Tony Blair called, so we had to go. And it's just like, what? What a sentence to say.
I'm trying to think because I started with Paula. I was trying to think if I finished it. I mean, I guess she had gotten everything. I mean, she had gotten.
Yeah, they were going to get $700,000 in
1997 money. And she wanted to go back to.
She wanted to go back to Lonoke County, Arkansas, and just live her life. And her husband was like, we're not going back. Wow. And he needs to apologize because
it's about him.
Well, and also Judith Light had put it in his head that everybody will talk and everybody will just think that why did she take the money? Yeah. And it's ugh. So now this poor woman doesn't have $700,000.
Oh, one last thing I do want to say. She's been doing it gradually, but this episode, at least 3 episodes in, it's like I've been watching this for weeks.
Yeah.
Beanie's doing this thing, especially with Bill, where she gets crazy eyes.
Oh, yeah.
You're seeing
so much
white around the top. I don't know. It's great.
It's awesome.
I would like to think Monica's self-aware enough, the real Monica, who was a producer, that she's like, yeah, no, I was.
No, do it. No, it's fine. I think
I was out of my depth.
So I read an interview with her that came out just before this started airing, and she basically was like, no, we should keep the things that are embarrassing to me in too. It's real. It's realistic.
I had a friend. I was 25 years old and she was having a hard time. She stayed with us for a few weeks while she was getting on her feet. And she was filling me in on stuff. And she was like, have you ever just lost your mind over a guy before? And I was like,
oh, yeah. Who hasn't?
Did that. And then I sealed that part of me off forever.
Now it's gone. No.
I was about to be like, but this is fun. It's not.
It's not fun at all, but it is we remember. Yeah, it is like popcorn.
So, yeah. If you liked it, let us know and like and subscribe. You can follow. You can give us $700,000. We'll take it.
Yeah.
And you will never see us again.
Never.
So if you don't like this.
Yeah, if you don't like this show, give us $700,000 and we'll shut the fuck up. We'll do it. We'll go away forever.
That's how we need to do this.
Yeah.
We need to start threatening.
Give us $700,000 or we will do this until the day you die.
And tune in next week.
All right.